Joy Meets World. I am your host, Joy Yugi, and on this podcast, I am telling you about my travels around the United States to see our national parks and some cities as well with my dog Quincy. And on this episode, we are talking about Indiana Dunes National Park and Chicago, and I have a special guest. I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Hey, I'm Sasha Yugi, and I am Joy's little bit younger sister, all the way from Atlanta, Georgia.
Yes, welcome on the podcast, Sasha. So I traveled 360 miles from Eau Claire, Wisconsin to Gary, Indiana, which is 15 minutes from the national park and an hour from Chicago. And I picked Sasha up from Midway International Airport, and she joined me for my adventures at this national park and in Chicago. So we are going to talk about our really fun time in Chicago. So we're in the area in May, and Gary is right on Lake Michigan. Our Airbnb is on walking distance from Lake Michigan.
Right there, about a block.
Yes. It's really beautiful.
Gorgeous views, gorgeous lake, and actually really surprisingly very clear for a lake.
Yeah, I agree. It's see-through, which is not what I expected. The lakes I think that we're familiar with are pretty brown. But we did an architecture tour to kind of fast forward a little bit, and she had said that some of the algae that makes it brown has gotten eaten up by some mussels in probably the last 10 years is what she said.
Or even a little bit more, and that's why it has that beautiful color.
The green and like the clarity to it. And you can actually see across to the Chicago skyline in the distance.
Yeah, a little city in the clouds.
Yeah, so it's really neat. Gary's an hour from Chicago, so we drove in, parked in Millennium Park Garage. Millennium Park is one of the kind of sightseeing destinations, the Central Park, if you will, of Chicago. So we got to walk through there. It was really cool. The bridge there is cool. Do you remember what it's called?
It's just BP Bridge. And so one of the great things is that the city of Chicago has gotten corporations like BP or Blue Cross Blue Shield to sponsor some of their tourist destinations or parks, the bridge. And so it must be great for their budget and brings a great space making and creative placemaking to the city, and honestly tourist destination.
Yeah, I feel like it was design wise, it was like a snake. Is that what you would say?
Yeah.
Like the shape,
like a steel snake.
Yeah, scaly.
Yeah,
and then on one side of it was what's commonly known as the bean, which is big. It's a sculpture, essentially like mirror metal sculpture.
Yeah.
Probably not saying that right. I think it's called actually something, the Clouds. Do you remember what the official name is? Okay. Well, you can look it up. It's fine. We call it the Bean. Most people call it the Bean. And that was pretty cool.
It was beautiful. And the whole park is beautiful. Really great to just walk through, ride a scooter or a bike, or take your dog through. So really a great asset to the city.
Yeah. And we really lucked out because our entire day was, what would you say, like 70 to like 80 degrees, sunny to like overcast. It was, but breezy.
Right.
So it was a perfect day, a beautiful day from start to finish, very walkable. We walked most of the city. When we got there at 11, so we got an early lunch, got into Lou Malnati's early. So if you're familiar with Chicago, that's like an iconic deep dish pizza place, and they had a really cool spot right there that we went to. I think it's like newer.
Perfect. It was, and go early because we kind of beat the lunch crowd. So when we left at 12:30, there was already a line, which as one of the more popular places to get deep dish pizza in Chicago, that makes sense, even for a Thursday afternoon. So we were just kind of lucked out and got there right when they opened.
Yeah.
Had a delicious lunch.
Yeah, had a Goose Island, which is a native beer. Had deep dish pizza. It was Sasha's first time having deep dish pizza. My second time, so not that much more. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yes.
how would you describe deep dish pizza? So we're from the north. We have thin crust New York style pizza, and that's what we grew up on. That's what we love. So what do you like? Describe deep dish pizza, and then like how you would compare it to thin crust pizza.
So to me, I think it's a different dish than regular pizza. So you almost have to think of it as something different, even though it's got the same name. But you got that layer, you've got cheese, you've got sausage, you've got tomato sauce, you've got a pie, almost you're eating a pie. So just a different concept in a way than your typical pizza, but still, honestly, absolutely delicious.
So good.
I think if you're, trying to make it through a cold Chicago winter,
Yes.
this is your comfort food, this is your go-to. And we had no problem devouring.
We did. The whole thing.
Yes.
Yes. We're not
Not
shy about eating. So that was great. What a great thing to do. We did Millennium Park. We walked to Willis Tower, aka Sears Tower, and we were able to go up to the ledge. And
I think what's surprising about Willis Tower is that before you even get to go up to see the sights and do the ledge, they really do a good job walking you through a tour of the history of Chicago, some of the famous landmarks, some of the famous people who have called Chicago home, events, food, just kind of really sets the stage for the city in a 10, 15 minute interactive tour, very interactive. So you're hyped up, you already have an introduction to the city. So I would almost recommend always, if you're visiting the city for the first time, put that in your morning of your first day because it really sets the stage and gives you a good overview.
yeah, and then you go up the elevator and you get, of course it's like a very touristy thing to do, but you get a 360 view of Chicago. They point out all the famous buildings. And it's so cool. So cool to see the city from that. You just get a perspective of like really what Chicago looks like and a feel for the city. It's cool. And they move you up fast and they move you through quickly. The photos are really fun. We had it was fun, right?
The ledge. So 3 sides, 5 sides are all plexiglass and you are hanging
several layers of plexiglass.
Thousands and thousands of feet above the city. So if you're scared of heights, which I am, there comes a moment where you look down and it kind of hits you how far up you are, and maybe that's when you quickly exit. But it's only very, very small.
Yeah, they give you 60 seconds on the ledge to do whatever you want to do. And people did do whatever they wanted to do.
A lot of photo shoots.
Lots of good people watching. It was good. I think we were pretty basic with our stuff, and we got out of there, but that's fine. And then they sent us down a service elevator, which was a tad sketch. So I don't know if there was a large crowd of school children.
Before and behind us. I think they got too many people.
Tiny, loud school children. So I think it was a little bit much, and somebody came to get us with a little group of people. I felt a little sketched at a second, like, where are they taking us? Because it was an older service elevator, definitely not like, the kind of marketing type promotional elevators, and did not go as fast.
No.
We were in there for a long time, and then we got out of that one, and it was all like service, so they led us into like these back hallways, and there was 2 of them. It was a little, for a second there, I was like, this could be bad.
Yeah.
But
we made it into the gift shop.
Yes. Where we spent our fair share of money in support of
Chicago.
Willis Tower. Yeah. We're always about supporting the local community in any way
Support
we
your
can.
economy.
That's right. So what did we do after the Willis Tower? We walked to...
So that's when we walked all the way to Navy Pier. And through Millennium Park, so saw the Beans, saw great outdoor venue space for a concert, a great lawn. Really got to enjoy the riverfront.
Oh my gosh, they have a
lakefront,
great walking path on the lakefront. Navy Pier, it's pretty much a big tourist destination too. It actually used to be a Navy training ground. They used to train aircraft they like built makeshift aircraft carriers out there. And I think World War II, right?
Yeah.
They used to train out there, but they used like really poorly designed. It wasn't actual aircraft carriers.
Too short of ships. So a lot of training accidents.
Yeah, how many? She said there were like
I think 300
planes at the bottom of Lake Michigan that like were in training accidents, and then it was like really empty for a long time, and then not till the 90s did it become like a tourist destination. But it's really cute. If you've been to Atlanta, it reminded me a lot of like a Pont City Market type kind of thing. It's like that brick structure that they've
revitalized and redeveloped.
Yeah.
So that from there we took an architectural tour on the river. Highly recommend. I mean, it was really fascinating. You know, the city has some great architecture. You can see the buildings. You can see the different styles. But one, to cruise along the river, so relaxing, so refreshing. But then also to just learn about the history of the buildings, the different styles of the buildings. Some that are, you know, a reflection of their time. Others are a reflection of where they are on the river, or just what style that architect specialized in. So really, really interesting.
It is. There were so many. Oh my gosh, like some of the building construction was crazy. Like the Wrigley building is super old, right? But it's like such like an iconic part of Chicago history, like that, the Wrigley Company. And it's that like Gothic, like architecture, right? But then there was that other one that was a year old that's at, what is that, Wolf Point, where the rivers kind of converge. And it's supported, so they couldn't build supports underneath because that's where the subway runs. So they had to build this like arch that's a part of the building that supports the entire skyscraper, and it's the gutter. Yeah. And then there's another skyscraper it's like 35 feet at its base.
It's very thin. Because then it's like, it looks like a pencil stuck in the ground.
Yes, that's exactly what it looks like. It's like so tiny in its base and so high because you have to have so many feet from the river that you build, and then there's just so many restrictions for the space that was in. There's like railroad around it. What is the other thing about the air around the railroad?
So what she was saying is railroads, when they own not only the railroad, but anything straight up in the air as far as the eye can see. So if a building were to cross into that space, they have to pay the railroad air rights, almost a lease to have some of that air above. What I think was also crazy, you talk about, I mean, structural engineers and architects, a lot of, because of the wind, so when you're building skyscrapers, how do you account for that wind? Yes. And so she talked about, you know, several buildings. One building has a whole, I think it was 2 floors that are completely, there's no glass, it's completely open, and it's, you know, probably maybe 10 floors down from the top of the skyscraper, and it looks like a mistake. You're like, oh, something happened to those 2 floors, they've got to finish them, and instead they will remain open for the end of time because that is how the wind can pass through and the building can stay stabilized. Another building, the one we were talking about that looks like a pencil stuck in the ground, they use big water. They use water in, and I don't understand how this works, so this is like first grade level, but they use water, and when the building sways one way, the water sloshes to the other way, and that's how the building stabilized. Absolutely incredible. I don't know how that works, but it does, and we have amazing
and the fact that like they have, I mean, obviously there's a lot of wind off the lake. That's pretty common knowledge, and we have experienced that ourselves. But like the Willis Tower can sway safely up to 18 inches, which is like water in a toilet. They
sloshing
said,
out
of the toilet, which is pretty insane that can happen. And what's crazy to me is that that's not why it's called the Windy City. That's why I've always called it the Windy City and assumed it is. I mean, it makes sense to me. It was pretty gusty breezy while we were there. It's pretty gusty. But apparently it was because when they were bidding for the World's Fair after the Great Chicago Fire, a New York journalist came out and just said, you know, the politicians in Chicago were blowing smoke, blowing hot air. They were windy, and pretty much they have been ever since. Yeah. But supposedly that's where the city gets its name.
but yet they won the bid for the World's Fair.
They did.
And a lot of things debuted at that. The first Ferris wheel, brownies, the zipper, a lot of other things that I wish I could name, but I've already forgotten.
Yes. Really cool stuff, really cool history. It was like a history tour, and a great just, place to like sit down and relax. And the tour guide was very
engaging
into what she was doing. There's also a ton of bridges in Chicago, which is
38, I think, working drawbridges.
Yes. But they like operate on a pulley system. So like instead of the drawbridge going up, like it's not a pulley system, counterweight. So the whole bridge, when it comes up, it like comes up like a seesaw. And we saw one that did it, and it blew my mind.
It was insane because they say that concrete counterweight has to be 3 times the weight of the bridge. So it's this huge block of concrete. Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah.
Who thought of that? I don't know. So bizarre.
But I will say, I mean, we think of the Great Chicago Fire and how it devastated. I mean, 17,000 structures were burned and how it devastated the city. But actually, they saw it as a chance to kind of rebuild and get it right, and then get to really design. Yeah,
and that's what you said from the plane. You could see that Chicago was very laid out and very intentional in the way that it was structured. And I think we were talking about how Atlanta is not really like that. I don't know the reason why. I don't want to like assume anything about it, but it's so interesting when you're in the air, you can see that. I don't know if Philly's like that.
I don't know.
Or New York. I can't remember. Because we've flown into those cities too. I can't remember, but I think they probably laid it out very.
I mean, and here's the thing: I don't know Chicago that well, so maybe just the part I flew over is the gridded part that was well planned.
I mean, you flew into Midway, so that's pretty much all Chicago, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So after the tour, which was about an hour and a half, we there's a Harry Carey's branch out on Navy Pier, so we ate there. Ate there, which is a pretty iconic place. Harry Carey was a
famous sportscaster.
Yes, for the Cubs. And speaking of the Cubs,
we then hopped in a Lyft and drove to the iconic, the one and only Wrigley Field to see a Cubs game.
It is insane.
It was beautiful. We got 10 rows back from right behind home plate. Beautiful night for baseball. Like we said, the weather was perfect. The field is absolutely amazing. You feel so close, so intimate. The ivy is still on the back wall.
Transported back in time. I mean, we're both. We're both very Braves fans. Love our stadium, Truist Park in Atlanta. Definitely go to the Battery because it is so fun. It's one of my favorite places in Atlanta. Supporting the Braves it's a great stadium. It's a great stadium. I just felt like Wrigley Field. It's so small.
Repping a Wrigley Field t-shirt just for this.
It's small, but you just felt transported back in time. Yeah. Like I'm at a classic baseball game. Yeah. The ivy was amazing. Sitting behind home base.
They still have the scoreboard that somebody was changing the scores. Yeah.
It was.
They also had the digital scoreboard, so still the modern conveniences and electronics and graphics of a baseball game. But
I mean. Cubs didn't do so hot.
No, but highlight of the game, 7th inning stretch, organist. We all turned and stood and sung "Take Me Out to the Ball Game,"
which is always a great moment.
Great song, great moment, and to do it at Wrigley Field, with so many other people in a historic place was awesome.
It was such a special day. Honestly, we just took a lift back to Millennium Garage, drove back to Gary. I mean, we made great time. It was honestly just a perfect day in Chicago. Totally lucked out to have such a great spring day to enjoy the city. We loved it. And then the next day, we woke up in Gary, Indiana, and we sat on the beach of Lake Michigan with our coffee. And Quincy, let him run around, it was sunny.
Sunny, warm, felt great. A great spring morning.
Yeah.
Just what you would think.
Vacation, sitting on the beach. It was so nice. And then we went to Indiana Dunes National Park, which is the national park that I'm in town visiting. And I had never heard of this national park before I'd planned this trip. Didn't know about it, didn't know what it was. So it's about 15 minutes away from Gary. Actually, one of the trails is literally, Marquette Trail is like literally within walking distance. Some of the other trails, I mean, it's pretty spread out. It's pretty spread out park. It's along the
15,000 acres, I think.
Yeah. So. And all of mostly sand dunes. But, I mean, there's bogs, there's forests.
Prairie almost. So they talk about what an ecosystem is and how many different varieties of not only vegetation but also animals and plant life and your lakefront, so you've got the beaches and the dunes, but then like you were saying, the bog, the trees, the prairie aspects. So really, really interesting and unique.
Yes. So we went to the visitor center. That's always kind of where I stop off because I love to talk to the rangers, especially because if you're not from the area, you don't know what you're doing. That's all they do every day, all year, all the time. So they know what to do. They know what to suggest, and we did. We found Eileen.
Love Eileen.
Yes, great. Had a great suggested hike for us. Actually saved us probably a lot of pain. She told us to go buy bug spray, which we did and would not have done if she wouldn't have suggested that. She sent us on a great trail that
and she told us to do it backwards. So which we didn't know at the time. She just said, you want to go left, just loop it left. So we thought, well, that's what everybody does. Okay. Turns out that's not how you're actually supposed to do it.
All the signs were saying the opposite thing on the trail.
But she saved us a lot of energy because had you done it the other way, you would have had to go up a very steep sand dune that may or may not have killed us.
I mean, and noted, we still went up a very steep sand dune. I guess it just wasn't as steep, but you will still have to climb one.
Also note, we're not in the best of shape or the most avid climbers, so if you are, do it the right way.
We made it. We did it. We did it great. Did it the opposite way. It was a bog trail, the Colwell Bog Trail. Is that right? Cowles Bog Trail. Coles. So he was a University of Chicago professor who originally in the 1800s kind of discovered, like the father of the sand dunes here, discovered them, studied them, kind of was like the person to get it going. It became a state park first in 1926. Then it became a national lakeshore under, I think, the Kennedys, right, in 1966. Then it didn't become a national park until
2019.
Yeah.
So our newest national park.
It is not our newest, I think.
One of our newest national
I think
parks.
the actual Arches in St. Louis and New River Gorge in West Virginia are the newer ones. But one of our newest, pretty much so. I appreciate it.
That's why we've got Joy here fact checking.
Yes. It is 2022. I know we've all been zoned out since the pandemic.
I'm not sure any 2020 counts for a year.
Yes,
so.
I totally get that. So it was at a 4.5 mile, it's called a lollipop loop. So it's like up, you do like a circle and you come back down that lollipop. And as the name suggests, there's bog in there, lots of forest. And then you wind up climbing up a dune and then over like a really tall dune to the beach and then coming back the same way. So I think we saw a lot of flora for sure. It's bird watching week.
It is. So a lot of signs to welcome birders, which we are not.
No.
But didn't even get any pictures of birds.
No, we saw 2 giant blue herons flying away.
Yeah.
I think they saw us coming.
Joy, tell us about some other animals we encountered.
Of course, I will. We saw a turtle, which is my absolute favorite, who was crossing the trail.
So cute.
Tried to move them. We both freaked out. Both moved on. We saw deer, a doe. She also, her and Sasha had a freak out moment, headed together, saw each other. She ran away.
Yeah. Before I could get my camera, it was a quick-footed deer.
Yes. And then on our way up the dunes, when we were pretty much out of breath and ready to die, we saw another creature. I'll let Sasha tell you about that one.
So eagle-eyed Sasha, who is afraid of snakes, has been keeping my eye out the whole walk for a snake. So here we are, top of a dune. We're not going to run into a snake here, yet we do. It was a very small snake. So you would not,
I think maybe less than 2 feet.
less than 2 feet, less than probably half an inch in diameter.
Yeah.
Very small. Doesn't matter to me. I definitely screamed. Definitely ran backwards.
I definitely
could not
thought
communicate
she was,
to Joy.
Yeah, I thought something had bit her.
Joy was about a foot from this
She was
snake.
grabbing her neck. She was grabbing her neck I think she was like covering her face like in shock. But it was like, I hope you watch this video. She was like grabbing her neck like almost in the choking position. And we were probably a good like 25 feet apart at that point because you had like backed up dramatically. Like she was having a stroke, like dramatically. Which I would have too if I understand that reaction, but in the moment I was like, please tell me what's wrong. I don't know what's happening.
Joy was standing less than a foot from the snake
and
saying,
didn't realize it. Yeah, what's wrong? Like approaching Sasha. Finally she gets out snake and I jumped the hell back.
But then also got a great video. Also that snake was very smart. It decided maybe I don't want to be in this trail. And within moments, had decided to turn itself around.
It disliked us more than we disliked it. It was like, what the hell? And it turned around and went back into the woods slowly.
Also ran into, of course, we run into very few people on this trail. There happens to be 3 people watching this all go down.
Yes. I didn't realize they were watching it, but they did make a comment. We ran into them like 5 minutes later, like, is there a snake at the head? I was like, how'd you know?
I was like, steer clear. And they were like, no, but where is it?
Yes, they were clearly like looking for the snake. I don't know. We were talking about it. I don't think it was a gardener snake. It wasn't like a common snake. And I'm not familiar with, obviously, snakes in the region. So we kind of made
I think it's always better to be safe than sorry. Yeah. And to me, a smaller snake could be poisonous.
They're fine, but I'm not really a fan. So we
daddled on.
We did, and kept our eyes peeled for the rest of the hike. For sure.
Which was pretty uneventful.
It was, yeah. We made it back. We showered. We went to 18th Street Brewery.
And I'll back up. Before we went to the park, we did stop at a pretty famous hot dog place to test out Chicago-style hot dogs for lunch.
Good point.
Which were
the Hot Dog Depot.
Delicious.
They only take cash. So, like, converted train car, very cute, very, like...
Local place, local joint,
So, a Chicago-style hot dog, which is a Vienna beef hot dog and a poppy seed bun, relish, mustard.
It had cucumbers on it.
It had celery, salt. Sorry, couldn't remember the
celery salt.
Celery salt. I think that was it.
I think maybe some mild peppers.
I loved it. I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
It hit the spot, really liked it. I don't know if I would, like, have it every time I had a hot dog. Mm-hmm. I kind of like a plain hot dog with, like, ketchup, but, it was good. It was good. Yeah. I'll take it. It was yummy.
Yeah.
The beer was yummy. We got a pizza.
So, again. This is, but we did thin crust. We went regular style tonight.
It was.
And it was still delicious.
It was. Came home, sat by the beach again, which was really...
beautiful and warm until it wasn't. Within moments. They talk about the wind coming off the lake and how it could be frigid. Well, we got wind off the lake, and within 10 seconds, no exaggeration, it was frigid air.
It was crazy. But we did get a glimpse of the skyline of Chicago again. Yes. It's been pretty hazy on the lake, and we couldn't really see across. The first night I did, I was able to see across to Chicago, but then it's been so hazy, but we could kind of make it out tonight.
Yeah, it was awesome. Very cool to see. I mean, you obviously see Gary and the industry, but to see Chicago, that skyline is iconic.
It is. It's really cool. What was your favorite part of Indiana Dunes and Chicago? What was, like, something like you might recommend to do differently, or just kind of...
So, Chicago, absolutely loved. I think the weather helped because you could walk, you could really enjoy the city, and spring. It wasn't. So, I would say we just lucked out with that timing. Also, I would give yourself more than a day. We packed a lot into one day. So, give yourself a weekend to do everything. But I absolutely love the city. What surprised me about Gary, besides the absolutely ugly houses that
I forgot about that
in this city, I'm not sure what kind of...
There's not much in Gary. everybody knows it from the Music Man, and it's very nondescript.
I will tell you what they do have: spiral staircases on the outside of their
ugly
buildings.
houses, strange, all different designs.
Yes, yeah.
Not very nice.
But they do have the Lake Michigan, and I will say how surprised I was. I'm not a huge lake person, but it was absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Clear water, some waves, a great beach. Definitely come in the summertime.
Yeah.
You would probably even want to definitely swim, even if you think, if you're anti-lake water.
Yeah.
I think it's worth coming back to.
Good.
I was really surprised by that, and I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah. I have to give a shout out to our Airbnb host, Jennifer. If you come near Chicago or near Gary, you want to stay here and go to Chicago or Indiana Dunes, this is the place to stay. She has a really nice big house, but it's a completely separate suite in the basement. It's called the Mermaid Suite if you want to look at Airbnb, but she has been the most flexible and gracious host. She watched Quincy all day and walked him for us when we were in Chicago. So we could just spend the whole entire day there and not have to worry about him. She's just been so kind and willing to help. I mean, and it's very well stocked Airbnb. There's all kinds of beach supplies, like anything you could need for the bathroom. She left us like a plate of snacks. She made me she's an artist, so she made me like this hand towel as a gift. Yes. So kind. Highly, highly recommend if it's like a one or two person, I think. And you have a pet, this is the perfect place to stay. So I just, definitely wanted to give her a shout out. But that is it for Chicago and Indiana Dunes. Sasha, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, I wish I could have you every time. You should be the host. You're so good at this. But till next time, I will catch you up on the next park that I'm going to in Ohio, of all places. But I wish you happy travels wherever life is taking you.